All right. Welcome to Autism BC Highlights. My name is Jake Anthony. I'm the program ambassador for Autism BC. Joining us today, we have Natasha Zacher and Ruth McIntosh from the Gateway Theatre Academy, and two friends of mine. We go back a long way. Natasha and I did a play a number of years ago, and Ruth and I, Ruth actually was one of my first acting teachers back when I was discovering theater and my love of the arts. So great to have both of you here today.
Thanks so much, Jake. It's so good to be in this space with you and have you hold this space with us.
Yeah, it's a real delight to get to reconnect and have a chat about these things that I think we're all so passionate about.
Same here, yeah. No, and it's and like we were saying, before we started, recording, there's only so many of these kinds of, adapted programs out there that are really, tailored for people of all abilities and people of all, both on and off the spectrum. And I think that that's, something that's really important. And I'm really happy that the Gateway's, taking a lead on that effort and, and making these important steps, which frankly, should have been taken by now, I think. But hey, better late than never, right? So yeah. So it would be great to hear a bit about both of your backgrounds, as well as what led you to start teaching acting to people of all abilities.
Go for I'll take off.
Yeah.
So my background feels eclectic. I did the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theatre program at UBC. I graduated in 2000, finished that program in 2014, actually graduated my degree in 2015. And then afterwards, almost immediately after, I actually started at Gateway Theatre as an education intern. That would have been May of 2014. And so prior to that, through my own high school kind of career and through my undergraduate degree, I did some teaching and volunteering in various places. And alongside a wonderful opportunity to be education intern at Gateway and then move into a new position to be education coordinator, I held that role for 2.5 years. If my memory serves, until 2016. I think speaking specifically to neurodiversity and drama, or arts work in general, in 2013, I believe, I started volunteering with a Vancouver Adapted Musical Theatre program, which used to be run by the Vancouver Park Board out of Moberly Arts and Cultural Center. And it was run by a wonderful music therapist named Don Hardy. And I was looking for opportunities to kind of learn more about the kind of almost therapeutic aspects of drama and music and dance. And so I volunteered as a choreographer for a little over 2 years. I did a couple of rounds of the program with them. And it was for teenagers, kind of age 13, 14, all the way up to 17, 18, if memory serves, with kind of various abilities, various kind of neurodiversities. And it was awesome. It was so awesome. We got to create original content, write an original musical. One of them was distinctly about building bike lanes in like downtown Vancouver and the need for more connection and green transport, and turned it into a musical with like Katy Perry songs, which was so much fun. And it just sparked such an interest in me in what is this field? It felt very new and felt very unique, especially within the Lower Mainland. I had not come across any other programs like that before. And a caveat there is that I was newish to Vancouver So I can't kind of completely speak to what might have been there before, but it felt special. Mm. And that really sparked my journey to what else is out there, like globally. So I started Googling at night. I would come home from work at Gateway and just my mind was churning, and I started researching, and all these websites kind of led me to programs in the UK, across the UK. And I thought, I think I need to go and give it a try and see what's there. And I did. I had the incredible good fortune of working and volunteering with a few different organizations there. One called Chicken Shed Theater. I was an artistic staff member there, which is very well known nationally for doing kind of mixed ability and inclusive theater programs at like bachelor level training, from little wee ones like preschool, very like sensory focused kind of work, all the way up to undergraduate level training. So that was really extraordinary to be a part of those groups and learn so much from that. I also worked for another organization called Dream Arts, which again was another arts therapy charity, and did a lot of kind of inclusive drama, arts work, running groups, a creative arts therapy program for free as well. So many of their services were free. So I think I learned on the ground from other people who had so much training and experience, and we're all learning alongside each other and kind of figuring it out. And at one point in my career as well, I worked also for a school for children with quite complex medical needs too. And that was just an enormously impactful experience for me, working with drama therapists and music therapists and art therapists in the classroom too. So for me, really, this kind of program is like an amalgamation of 8-9 years of learning. And then put it in the context of a pandemic. How do I take kind of what I've learned through my own kind of professional volunteer and training experiences too, and make as much sense as I can through this virtual medium. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that feels like a wrap for me on that question.
No, that was great. That was fantastic. Yeah.
And I've been education manager at Gateway Theatre since, this is 11 or so years. And before that, I was teaching and working as an actor across Canada. In my work, particularly as an educator, I have met and worked with a number of students who are neurodivergent, and Jake, you, I think you were the first student that I had that I knew was neurodivergent, and I was just blown away by your self-advocacy, and I learned so much from you, and it just sparked there's a whole world of people that I need to learn how to serve. And interestingly enough, stepping into this position as a programmer, it allows me some license to be able to do that. And this idea for these sensory friendly acting camps came out of a pilot a couple of years ago, and we were offering these just one-off workshops. And in connection with Path and Natasha, we were designing these together. And so this is our next iteration to be able to offer these. The difference really being is that these are specifically designed for youth and children, whereas those were for sort of young adults, those workshops. So I'm really excited to be able to offer these for for neurodivergent children and youth. And I think what compels me is specifically in this position, as I've met a number of students who identify as neurodivergent in our classes, and our classes don't specifically serve or don't necessarily consciously remove the obstacles for people who are either neurodivergent, sensory sensitive, or have other access needs. And it's time that we change that we address that. And so this is one way in which we're doing that, and wanting to generate something that's specifically designed for people who have sensory sensitivities, so that there's a safe space and it can augment the learning, as opposed to have students have to wrestle with obstacles. Yeah, and I will share, there is one student who just this year, she's been with us a handful of years, and she shared with us, you know, when I'm in my class, I feel like I belong. And that is such that brings such huge meaning to me. It's important that there is a sense of belonging for each and every student in our classes. And I'm really excited to be able to offer this class that specifically focuses on sensory sensitive folk, so that it even augments that sense of belonging, that here are my people, and here's a safe space for me.
Well, that's just fantastic. And I really, you know, that's something that, you know, and you really created that, you know, for me when, you know, when you were teaching me. And but I, you know, I know that it was, you know, a bit different because, you know, there wasn't really a sensory friendly option then, right? It was kind of, you know, you as an instructor, you kind of had to learn as you went, kind of, and try to support people like me and other people, you know, with neurodiversities as best you could. But I think that, and you did a wonderful job, by the way.
Jake.
You always gave me, I always felt like I belonged, and you know, and that's something that I really found from theater, from all the years that I was as a student and as somebody who worked in theater professionally, was I really did feel a sense of belonging. And I always did feel probably most comfortable when I was on stage or in the classroom, you know, especially at that point in my life when I was younger. It really was as you said, a safe space. And I think creating that for so many folks is really important. So
yeah,
that's great.
Let's keep doing it.
Yeah. So maybe you've kind of already talked about this a bit, but can you talk about how the sensory friendly acting camp, you know, was different from other acting camps that are offered in the community?
Yeah, I'll start, Natasha, and then if you could fill in. It's interesting
sure.
because, and we were even talking a little bit before going live, is the lack of accessible programs. I can't speak to how we're different in as much as that I can speak to the fact that this is intentionally designed for folks who are wrestling with sensory sensitivities. It's specific that we're online, that we're on Zoom for the camps, in order to mitigate some of those obstacles. Our theater spaces are not designed to address sensory obstacles. They're very stimulating places, and so it's really specific that Natasha and I talked over this, and even aside from the pandemic, I think this is an important platform on which to offer these until such time as we can provide a space that reduces the obstacles. Natasha, could you share more from your experience and knowledge?
Yeah, and I think that just even to preface this, that a lot of the decision making will end up being in response to who's in my class and what their needs are. And so I certainly have some ideas around what my intentions are and what the choices are, kind of more broadly speaking. But I think quite genuinely, until after my first day of camp, it'll be, okay, let's go. let's figure out how will the rest of the week kind of progress based on who ends up in in the group. But I think that word intention is important to me. And speaking about even the kind of virtual Zoom medium, to my knowledge and some of the feedback that I have kind of gotten in my various roles in life, is that actually with the pandemic, transitioning to virtual learning for a lot of young people with sensory sensitivity has actually made quite a difference in terms of focus, in terms of also having family members around, siblings, caregivers, who can support with the learning. And that I'm really curious about too. So that's an intention, is to have support people close by, because in my experience in groups, it is always more useful to have volunteers who can kind of provide that extra little bit of support or encouragement, or kind of come alongside a young person who's maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and just kind of support them and redirect or encourage connection with another student in the class. And that's really hard within a in-person class when we don't have those resources a lot of the time. So my hope, and something that Ruth and I have talked a lot about, is how do we actually encourage family members or siblings to be close by, to participate, to be that additional kind of voice of encouragement. And then my biggest hope is they also get to learn something different about their kid or about their sibling by witnessing, by being present. There's a very structured opportunity for playfulness that, whoa, if any year we need it, it's now, to my mind. And I think also with, as Ruth was speaking about stimulation, my hope is to be very intentional in the actual classes themselves about how objects or ideas are introduced. Kind of if we're exploring something musical, for example, really just focusing on that, or if we're exploring something physical, really just focusing on that. And also a huge benefit of doing this program in the home is that if, students have, a particular toy that they really like, or things that make them feel comfortable, then hey, come on in, we're welcome. And I really look forward to learning about my students and their preferences, the things that help them to feel safe, that help them to feel connected and present. And I think that will very much be an evolving thing for me. It always feels like it's an evolving thing for me. So I'm kind of coming into the process with a sketch of some of these ideas, and then we'll be responsive to kind of what comes up.
Kind of, see where it takes you, right? And see where, that's great. Yeah, and especially with something like this, it is, as we said, quite new and something that really hasn't been done a whole lot, but I think it's a great opportunity for learning for, both instructors and for students alike, both now and moving forward with, if you do these camps, further on down the road, right? Yeah.
Can I say one more thing? That
sure.
I just popped into my mind.
No problem.
One of my favorite things, I ran a program through Art Starts in the fall of last year. It was supposed to be in person, and then with the pandemic, it turned virtual. And one of my favorite things was getting people's pets involved. That was the best. It was so fun. It was just a wonderful way to connect everyone, and their dogs became characters and got involved in our final. We made a film virtually over Zoom that was kind of recorded in Zoom and then all edited together. And it was just so wonderful to see these other furry family members become involved. And I could just see how, grounding, I know how grounding animals are, just how grounding their presence was, and just welcoming them into this space. So I think I'm looking forward to those kind of spontaneous experiences happening, which I couldn't have anticipated. There's no way. It just kind of arose in the moment and became a really special thing.
Yeah, no, and that's the beauty of Zoom. Some people talk about having your pets and kids in the background and everything as being like kind of like a hindrance, but really it can actually be a gift, I guess, in that way, of being able to be surrounded by those family members and those including the furry family members who you wouldn't normally have in the acting studio with you if you were teaching at the Gateway, right? So
yes.
Can we work on that, Ruth?
Yes. That sounds great.
Get the four-legged family members in. All right.
Totally.
So you've I think gone into this quite a bit, but how important is it to you as acting instructors to make sure the classes are accessible and welcoming to all students, including those who have sensory sensitivities?
Yeah. I'll speak as a programmer that it's really important for me to provide that space. More and more, I would say in the last 5 to 8 years, students have, and their parents or guardians have approached me and come out, if you will, as identifying as neurodivergent. And that didn't used to happen. Like Jake, I'll say again, like you were maybe one of just even a couple of students in my entire teaching career that were so comfortable with talking about who you are and how you function in the world. And I'm finding, thankfully, that so many more people and families and students are comfortable, like you were, speaking about who they are and what their needs are. And so it's become increasingly apparent to me that there are a host of students whose needs we are not serving. And because of the ensemble nature of theater, it's important to be inclusive in our training and provide those safe spaces for all folks. I'm looking forward to a time where, we're more equipped to serve that multidiversity, neurodiversity in class, in person with all students. And so this is a really lovely intentional step towards that, without eating the whole pie. we're eating a piece.
Yeah.
And seeing how we do.
Just kind of jumping off of what you said, Ruth, I think for me it's important to be like humble about what I have experienced, but also what I don't necessarily know in myself. I think that my brain lives on a more neurotypical spectrum. And for me, it is so important to collaborate and learn from others who experience neurodivergence in a different way than I do. And that to me is just this constantly evolving process. And so when you ask the question of, how important is it to you that spaces are inclusive and kind of make room for this, I think we do it even in classes that are not intentionally focused in this way. In the other classes that I've taught at Gateway and I've witnessed the other faculty members at Gateway teach, or Ruth, when you step into a room, I've had the good fortune of teaching alongside you and watching you teach a number of times, that it's about responsiveness. always, regardless of whether that, you know, a bit of kind of hesitancy is coming from fear or nervousness or worry about standing out or feeling different, that those are like human experiences. And so in some ways, this program and this particular camp doesn't feel like light years away from what we already do. It's about, for me, I think, bringing in a very specific intentionality about sensory processing, but the actual way in which I approach teaching and gathering and encouraging ideas will, I anticipate, you know, based on how I know myself as a facilitator, be the same. And I just really look forward to seeing what comes of this experience and what I learn too at the end of it.
And, you know, what's really important, I think, part of accessibility, you know, you talk about how, you know, that in certain ways that it's, you know, similar to, you know, even though there's obviously differences in terms of the sensory friendly aspect to it, you know, part of inclusivity and it being accessible, right, is being able to offer a program that's at the same time, while being inclusive, it still isn't, you know, overly adaptive, right? Where it's, you know, where everybody's still able to have the same opportunities and to have the same experience, right? Even if it's a slightly adapted experience for, you know, like people on the spectrum or people with other neurodiversities. So, no, that's a great way to look at it in terms of that, you know, that inclusive and accessible, but still, you know, similar or, you know, connected to the other classes that you do. That's really important, because nobody wants to feel like they're in a special class, right? Because that kind of, it just creates a separate kind of, us and them kind of mentality. So, no, but that's great. So from your perspectives, and you've talked about this a bit in terms of ensemble and how, you know, how that kind of brings people together, but how does theater and acting bring, you know, people from different communities, and maybe not only the neurodiverse community, but all communities together, in your opinion?
Yeah. Natasha, you want to go for it?
I love creating from stories that feel important to the group that I'm working with. And I think the biggest thing that I have learned is really mining the natural curiosity and interests of the people, whether they're kids or teenagers or adults, in the programs that I have taught with or facilitated or supported. So for me, I think in terms of creating broader community, it's a space to be seen, whether that's in person or virtually. And all of a sudden, there's an immediacy of, oh, you want to create a play about this topic? So do I. I love it too. And there's all of a sudden conversation and connection just arises really organically. And again, those are things that I can't predict. So for me, I think that is the most valuable thing that I've experienced as a facilitator. And from what I think what I've noticed and watched in the, you know, young people and students that I've taught, is the value of being witnessed. And I think you just now spoke to that in a really beautiful way, Jake, of not being othered. And having, so when you bring, you know, an intentionality to how you create programming, my hope is that naturally through accurate marketing and reaching out to organizations or schools or what have you, that we will bring into this program, or families will be curious about this program, because I really, my biggest hope is that, you know, the kind of subconscious thought is, oh, my kid won't be alone. My kid will be with peers. And I think that is it actually just kind of warms my heart. Thinking about it, I just feel, so grateful to, you know, be in a position to kind of foster or encourage that.
Yes to everything Natasha said. I'll add to, you know, just the skill of acting is conversation, is listening and speaking. And so the training, a big part of our training is learning how to listen to each other. And it's funny because when we go and see a show, we see people and they say words. And that's where our attention is most often drawn, is who is speaking. There is something integral to the form of acting in listening to one another. And so acting training also teaches us that. How do I sit in my space and absorb what you are giving me? And then what do I do inside to then be able to speak? And in response. So it's conversation. So it's there's a give and take that's inherent in acting. And that then in and of itself binds us as people, or binds us as communities. So there's a receptivity to one another. Connection is so integral to the form of acting. And then that builds understanding. If I listen, I have more chance of understanding. And then again, that deepens connection. So, yep, come and get it.
Well, and you know, for me as a person on the spectrum myself, I mean, I learned so much from acting and from you know, the craft, in terms of being able to have a reciprocal conversation with somebody and being able to understand that a relationship is a two-way street, and that it's you know, it requires that give and take. And really, acting was a big part of what taught me that and gave me an understanding of that. So yeah, that's so true. Yeah. So, you know, moving forward, you know, after this summer camp, do you plan on this becoming a regularly offered class at the Gateway?
Absolutely. I know that we'll learn a lot through running these. It's, you know, programming is always such a peculiar thing, because normally under usual non-pandemic times, I would have already programmed our fall and winter. Certainly, I mean, I'll have planned fall and winter before I gather information from this summer. So it's not the best way of learning and applying. That said, it's important to me to continue offering this. And I haven't yet decided if it will be online or in person, but so that's a little, I'm sort of holding that up, but definitely in some capacity, it needs to happen. We need to continue to offer this kind of programming.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, can I add a couple of things, Jake?
Oh, of course, sure. Yeah.
Is one, I just want to acknowledge that Gateway Academy and Gateway Theatre are situated on the ancestral territories of the Hunkaminam speaking peoples. And so just wanted to honor that and the space that we get to practice and work in. I also wanted to say that we're grateful to our summer camp sponsor, the Rotary Club of Richmond, for supporting Academy students and our summer programming. And I wanted to let families know too that bursaries are available, and these are somewhat tough times for a lot of folk financially. So bursaries are available to Academy families in need through, we have generous support of the Winford Group Strata Management. So there's information about our website, and the application for bursaries is a really, really simple process. And just to shout out to how to register, if there's folks who are listening and watching who are interested or want to pass word on to others, you can register and or get more information about our sensory-friendly acting camps on gatewaytheater.com. That's our website. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. The Twitter handle is at gatewaythtr. So Gateway THTR. So it's like theater is really piled into a short few words.
Ruth, Natasha, thank you so much. And just thank you for all the work that you're doing. And, it's a pleasure to have you here. And, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe I'll get to audit, sit in on, or even take part in one of these if that's all right one day. I would love to.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.